corporate animation. Because I work in a corporation, and I'm still animating. I bring everything under the sun to the corporate world. I bring the colors. I bring toys to my desk. I bring candy. I bring everything that my culture has given me. And then I go back to lights, camera, action. Well, my name is Anna Julia, and I work in the tax department. I'm an AVP for the transversal team, and we just recently started doing the Fortis energy trading, which that was so much fun learning, because I ended up going to Houston and learning how the gas comes up the pipes and how we sell the gas back and forth, and I got to learn that side of the business that I never thought that I would possibly learn. My family came to the United States because they wanted me to be born here. So that means that I'm the first U.S. generation American here. So that means that I don't have a brother or a sister or an older cousin or relative that has graduated from college or that spoke English or that could help me with my homework or that I could relate to in any kind of way. So my first language had to be Spanish. So that means that my parents had to put me in an ESL class, and Spanish, I had to do math, English, because back in the 70s, they didn't allow you to take an English class because then you have a disconnection from your parents. So because I was the first child, I had to stay in a bilingual ESL classes my whole, up to the 8th grade. So there was no way that they would even let me out because then I was the translator for my parents. So English was so hard for me because when I started speaking English, I sounded like Rosie Perez. And people were like, what does she sound like? And I'm like, oh my God, this is not happening. So my parents, my mother is 1 out of 10, and my father is 1 out of 5. And it was hard because I had to basically, every time I did my homework, I needed an encyclopedia, I needed a dictionary to basically look up the simple words. But now I am a mother of a 21-year-old in her third year in college, and she looks up to me because she's not the first generation, she's the second generation now. And I have enjoyed dancing and acting and fashion, and because my parents came to this country as the dream, they never let me go for my dream, and that dream was to dance, to fashion, to have fun, to go and breathe and become a hippie or something. So they didn't let me do that. My father used to work in Goldman Sachs as head of maintenance, and basically he used to collect all the garbage pails from everyone's cube, and on Saturdays and Sundays we used to come along and help him pick the garbage up. So my dream was like, I don't want to pick up garbage, I want to be in the cubes. And he was like, well, that's not, I don't know if you're going to be able to do that because you don't speak perfect English. We don't know how you're going to even get there. And I went to school and I'm like, I'm going to do this. And I basically, it took me harder because I had to do things the hard way. And I became a bookkeeper for the fashion industry. I used to work at 1385 Broadway, and I used to go to the Vegas show, you know, the showrooms and pick up buttons and swatches and, you know, look at the middleman for like caché and, you know, the sweatshops, and I learned all that. And one day I had an accident. I don't know if it was an accident or I would call it getting back on my right path, because I was sitting in the waiting room and a girl comes up to me, she goes, oh my God, your daughter's so cute. And I'm like, okay, whatever, why are you even talking to me? And she's like, no, oh my God, your daughter's so cute, what do you work at? And I'm like, I work in the fashion industry. She goes, do you like it? I'm like, it's okay, it pays the bills. And she's like, oh my God, but I have a friend in HR who works at Morgan Stanley and she could get you in. And I'm like, why do you even want to help me? But whatever, okay, I'll go. And I went. And I went to the interview, and she goes, what do you know how to do? And I'm like, I know how to problem solve, I know math, I'm not that good in speaking or English or anything like that. She goes, oh, we'll put you in the IRA department. And I'm like, the IRA department? She goes, yeah, retirement, math, you know, bookkeeping, same thing, same concept, just in a brokerage firm. And I'm like, okay. So then this product came out that was raw, which it dealt with cost bases, and you moving it into an IRA, and you moving it back and forth. And I became so excited and so obsessed with these numbers that there was an opportunity that Fidelity Investments was paying double the salary to learn the same product. So So I'm like, well, I've been here 2 years, let me go try. I got the job after like 3 months, because to get into Fidelity, you have to basically give out your blood, because it takes their HR process is tremendously long. And after being there for 7 years, moving up the corporate ladder, I actually became their model. So I was actually doing something that I liked. So I was coming out in their brochures, I was doing their volunteer, I actually did the Boys and Girls Mentor Club, kids that didn't even think that they would get where I got to. So then one day, again, I'm sitting in my office, and I get another call from another recruiter saying, oh my God, Bank of America is hiring, they want you, they don't, they've heard all about you because, you go to Texas and you give these classes and you became the guru, because retirement became this big booming thing for Fidelity. So Bank of America Securities wanted me, and I'm like, okay, here we go again. 7 years, I really don't want to change, why should I go? I ended up going to Bank of America Securities, and 2 months after I was there, they said they was going to sell it. Sell it to who? And I'm like, oh my God, here we go. I did the worst mistake of my life, I'm going to die. Because I'm from this background where people, my family had nothing, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm jumping into these jobs, I'm taking everything for granted, I should have been blessed, I should have stood still. But I didn't. And they sold this to BNP Paribas. And I guess that was my blessing, because my director at the time said, retirement's now, but BNP Paribas is a smaller bank. They're going to take high net worth clients, but you have to learn the whole tax department. So that means you have to learn IRA, you have to learn balancing, you have to know regulations, you have to learn the tax forms. And she's like, you have 2 months to learn it. And if you don't, then they'll have to let you go. And I'm like, oh my God. And I went home with all my regulations, all my ERISAs, and all my papers, and I actually pretended like it was a class and I had to get an A. And after being here for 3 or 4 years, I got a call into the office, and my director said, congratulations, you're an AVP. And I'm like, I started crying, and I called Dad, and I told him, Dad, my dream came true. I saw you picking up garbage, and now I'm actually in one of the cubes.